Bonjour. Happy Saturday. Hope everyone's well out there. Welcome once again. This is possibly the 60th episode of Dissolving the Divide. How about that, Leslie? And yeah, I'm going to pass it to you in a second. I just want people to recognize and realize that, yeah, we cover over so many topics and we're bound to cross-pollinate, similar topics, and, we can't solve all of, life's problems within a single podcast. These are, things and conversations, and with a lot of great knowledge and experience that people are presenting and bringing to the table that people can learn from and glean off of, and possibly see that as a good example of how to communicate better throughout all these polarizations and centralizations across the nations, and to really spark that MAGA nation within people's selves to, navigate this reality a little bit better, and have just overall better relationships with yourself and other people, right? We're not going to all get along and agree with everything, but, we can make this path work a little bit more smoother, less abrasive, if you will, or whatever. But hey, so Leslie, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Yes. Welcome, everybody. And welcome to our special guest, Laura Worley. Really excited to have you here. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I learned about your work, you and your work, from Jaymee Jay, who we've interviewed in the past, and we're bringing back this topic of trauma-based mind control, of which you are, I would say, an expert from many different angles. And you have a book called Puzzle Pieces to the Cabal, Mind Control and Slavery, and then also Puzzle Pieces Together Manual, A Pathway to Freedom. And I really admire your dedication. I can really feel your passion to help survivors and to help educate the world on this very serious and impactful topic, right? And it is relevant to everyone to have some knowledge about this. And I think that's very important, because I think that a lot of people in the world, they're overwhelmed by this, they're scared by it, and put on some blinders and walls. And so I just want to encourage anyone listening to open your heart, your mind, and listen to what Laura's sharing, and open to the possibilities that there's a lot more to what's going on in the world than we typically think. And so Laura, thank you for being here. Please share a little bit about your journey and what your mission is right now.
Okay. Well, it began by just being a survivor myself and trying to get free, but that was pretty impossible in the early 90s. So nobody would allow you to talk about this. You were either crazy, luckily this didn't happen to me, but the therapists world were told to put the survivors on pills and throw them in a mental hospital. I think you remember that time in the 90s when they said, oh, the therapists are putting those thoughts in the survivors' minds. And the funny thing is that every therapist I ever went to had no clue how to help me. So how are they exactly putting those thoughts in survivors' minds when they don't even know what it is? So that was kind of my journey. I tried a zillion different people. I spent a lot of money, and I was very frustrated because I had a ton of memories, but I had also a ton of pain. And so like in 2005, there was a survivor, he wasn't a therapist, but he was a specialist. And he supposedly had worked with 300 survivors, and he knew what he was doing. And so we ended up paying him like $100,000 in a year cash. And then I also had to pay for another therapist to be with him, and which actually eventually threw us into, bankruptcy and all that kind of thing. But the problem was, and this is why I can say what I'm going to say without hopefully making anyone mad, is what I realized is we had spent a year working on what I call the front programming. And the front programming means Disney, computers, Hourglass, those type of things that we all openly talk about. That is the front programming. It will not get a survivor free. And I can tell you, because I spent a lot of time, a lot of money, and guess what? They were still able to call me back. How did they call me back? Because I had the New World Order programming still, and I had not even touched the core foundation programming, which is the Kabbalah tree of death. That's what I call it. You know, you can call it whatever you want, but it is complex, and it is a template that every single survivor has. How do I know? Because I've worked with many survivors. There's not one single one that does not have the tree of death core foundation, and there's not one single one that doesn't have the water world / Atlantis, and there's not one that does not have the New World Order programming, which means they will have sleeper soldiers that are being called and activated for right now. And in history, they've never been used until now. So in the last few years, the sleeper soldiers are being called forward. Now, this isn't what you think of it like a super soldier, because see, every survivor, it has soldier parts, and they've been trained since a little child. And they know exactly how to do martial arts, every kind of assassination, anything that a soldier would do plus more. Every survivor has inside of them. So what my calling is really is that we must start teaching the truth, which is the survivors are all alike in their programming. Why would that be? Because worldwide, the cabal could not keep this organized and have millions of survivors worldwide unless they had a template. They have to follow a template, or they cannot do this. And if anybody knows about the Illuminati, it is very organized, all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom. Everything is organized, and so is the template. And the biggest piece of this, which believe me, it took me a very long time to understand. All of this I'm up to like 30 years now since this all began, and I began to remember. So what I found out eventually, and God is a big, you said, well, how did you learn about the Kabbalah? Well, how this started really, well, of course I had it inside so God could start teaching with me. But in 2019, God said, I want you to write a book. And I'm like, okay. I always knew I was going to write a book. I just didn't know what it about. And he started teaching me about the Kabbalah, the tree. And he said, Laura, this is the tree. This is the root of the core foundation. If you pull out the root of the core programming, it will make everything else fall. And so in my first book, it's just a very beginning look at the Kabbalah tree. You know, like how I got information is every morning I would try to like get prepared, meditation, scriptures, whatever. And then I just say, okay, what do you want me to do today? And many times, I'm not kidding, the Lord just gave me the words. They were like as clear as day. All I had to do was write it down. And then sometimes he told me, you need to research this topic. But he led every single bit of the first book and the second book. But the second book, I had learned quite a bit, but I got stuck. And I'm like, God, this is all I can bring up consciously and that I know. And he told me to do something very weird. And I thought, okay, I don't know how I'm going to do that. I had saw this woman like 2 months ago on Telegram talking about MK Ultra. And he said, go back and find her and go to her website. And I'd already went to her website, but nothing jumped out at me. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back 2 months on Telegram and find some woman, I don't even know what her name is, and see if I can do this. Well, anyway, who I ended up finding was Amanda Byes, which you probably know or don't know. But anyway, her name is Amanda Byes. And I was like, what the heck? She had filled in the gap. She had so much information on the Kabbalah, the programming, the pieces I didn't have. And what ended up happening is God put this together, because I sometimes look at my second book and think, oh my gosh, I don't even know how I did that. But it's like she had information and God had already given me a bunch of information. And I had already been trying this with clients just to see, do you have the tree of death? Do you have the New World Order programming? Amanda didn't help me with that. That's just something that I, anyway, knew in the water world. But anyway, the second book, I don't know how to explain this to you, but God just put all this information together in my mind so that I could organize it and put it together. And he just showed me, if you will follow this core way of addressing the programming and all of this is the big part, the layered demons, fallen angels, because see, a survivor has hundreds, maybe thousands of fallen angels attached to them because it's layered into the core foundation. That's why they do it, because it keeps the person trapped and very rarely gets free. Because so many survivors, I didn't know either that I even had this. I didn't know I had attachments of a bunch of demons. I didn't know that at all. I followed God. I found God at 21, doing all this stuff, but I still had a whole bunch of attachments because they had permission to me. They had legal right to me because I had the programming done in the womb. And whoever it was gave permission, the demons had it. So I could pray all I want for, take it all away. It doesn't work, because if they have permission, it doesn't matter how many prayers you say. You have to find their legal right to you and get rid of it. And the only way you can get rid of them is if you start removing the programming. Right. And so
can you explain a little bit about the mechanics of the layers, or the mechanics of the programming a little bit, how that works in our physiology and mind?
Okay. So in the womb at conception is the first split of a survivor. So they split the mind. How they do that is by downloading. Now, this is the tricky part. I don't understand this part. They download all the iniquity of people like Hitler and all those that did a lot of evil. So somehow they were able to download this iniquity. So they're downloading the iniquity of the ancestors as well. And so at conception, the first split will be because it's too much. And so in the womb, the child will already be starting their programming. They will already be given the template of the tree of death, the first one, because there's 7 trees of death. And then there's actually even more, but I won't get into that.
How are they receiving that templating and by whom exactly?
This is all done by fallen angels, Lucifer, and then the cult. And the cult is instructed by the fallen angels how to make sure that the core foundation is put in perfectly so it's not messed up. So they don't leave it to man. They do not. The fallen angels are instructing.
Is it through the mother in some way? Does the mother needs to be in some level of mind control or acceptance of this?
Usually the mother is going to be hurt too. She usually is going to be, of course, already a part of the cult. So that's the permission. Most mothers, of course, don't want to be, but they don't have a choice. And so through the lifetime of a survivor, if she's a woman, will have many children that are not like consciously that you're bringing out into the world. This is for sacrifice, for whatever they want. So when some people say, well, I was a breeder, no, every woman is a breeder. So, and they do it at different ages of the sacrifices. And so what we boiled it down to, and so what I'm telling you is actually working with clients, and it is working. They are pulling their mind together. They are integrating all the parts. And through this process, I'm probably getting ahead of myself. So I'm doing this process with people, and I publish book 2, and then I have the weirdest phenomenon happened to me, but I didn't understand what it was. I didn't know what it meant, but I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to keep doing it. All of a sudden, I keep having these women come in who are called mothers of darkness, and they're the top level groomed in the Illuminati, and so they can wield great evil. Well, anyway, I'm getting, I counted at least within a 6-month period, 15. That's impossible. So, and that's all the ones I even knew. So now they're teaching me this whole new level of evil that, you know, that exists, and millions of women and men have the equal part. My husband and I have been so incredibly attacked, like in every form and fashion, by the highest group of every single group. That's why I've learned a lot about them just by their attacks. 7-day rituals, 13-day rituals to kill us. That's why I even know about the god and goddesses, because they even use them to come after us. Then I learned a ton about the druids. I mean, to me, what I learned from them is the most hidden of all of information. And I believe they control humanity. And they have, I believe, the highest power on the earth of evil. So anyway, you guys, I know it might blow you away, because we've all kind of, oh, druids are great. No, they have, what they do is very powerful, and it is very evil. And I can speak from 3 directions: my own experience, clients, and being attacked by them. So I'm giving you 3 references of what I'm saying is true.
So there's a means with which, you know, the cabal, the dark occultists bring people or lure people into their command, right? And is it, you know, who tends to be vulnerable for that?
Well, I would say the way they get the most people is because it's generational, because they want that pure bloodline. So that's going to be for a mother of darkness, let's say, or someone very high up, they have to be pure bloodline. They can't just be someone pulled off the street. And there's such a thing as called druid queen and king, princess and not princess, priestess and priest. They also wield a great deal of evil. They're very aligned with the mother of darkness and the father of darkness. And so anyway, what happened was that this kept coming, like, this is just in this last year. And so I was literally telling God, I don't want to know anymore. I don't want to know a single thing more. I'm done. I seriously don't want to know. And of course, God doesn't take that for anything. And they just kept coming in. So God told me to write down every single attack that, you know, these weren't just like overnight. It was, they were doing a 7-day ritual. They were doing a 13-day ritual. They were doing rituals to bring to pass curses, spells, and to kill. So I wrote down all of these things, and then God said, write down everything that you're learning about the mothers of darkness. And then he has asked me, and believe me, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want to, but he has asked me to publish this 3rd book, which it's done pretty much. The editor's starting, and it's all about this upper level that's so well hidden. Because see, if you go try to find information on this, you will not find it, because Cisco Wheeler, I think, shared some 20 years ago, and then people take her information to share it, but none of that that's published will get us a mother of darkness free. And these upper level people have been activated right now. So what I mean by that is they've been activated to start going after people and help bringing in the New World Order. And that's never been done before. And this is worldwide.
Have you heard of, real quick, Michael Tsarian's works about, you know, female Illuminati, Dragon Mother, that kind of material?
Say that again. I'm so sorry.
Michael Tsarian, are you familiar with his works?
No.
Because he's spoken about this in the Gynocracy, female Illuminati for years and years. Yeah.
Yeah, I have not. No.
No worries.
So yeah, I don't know anything about him. But anyway, I kind of told God I don't want to, because I don't feel like I know that much, but I do know I know more than most people on this subject, and I still feel like I'm an amateur at it. But I'm still supposed to do it. So I think I do have experience of helping a few mothers of darkness make it to the end doing this method and gotten free. But I'm going to tell you that most of them, once we got to the knowing that they carried this high level person or part inside, they somehow would end the session, or they would start attacking me. The mother, their part would start attacking me as a professional. And so anyway, that's kind of how it led to the third book that'll be, posted in 2 months, within 2 months. I'm definitely an amateur on it, but God is telling me to do it. And because right now I really feel like these high level survivors have never even had a chance to get free. And the reason why I say that is because of what I've been shown, what they have to do to get free and what has been done to them. It's not like every survivor. It's 100 times worse. And so, so it's pretty mind boggling. As a survivor, I didn't even know that existed.
Right. Yeah. So there's levels of evil here, levels of, maybe almost sounds like people are groomed for different jobs or roles.
Yeah, like if you're a top level, it's usually because of your bloodline, and it's in the family line. So if you're called to be a certain mother of darkness, your mother and grandmother, and they were too. So it's a family thing. So anyway, that's what I learned.
So the splits, so we're talking about splits of consciousness, right? That starts, like you're saying, in the womb even, and that there's this multi-generational patterning that is just making it ripe, right? This is the culture, this is what they're swimming in, and then they do the splitting. And then babies are born already with some disruptions, and then trauma. Like, can you kind of continue with the mechanics of how these
okay so basically, by the time the child is born, they have 3 major splits. Now at birth, they're going to do it again. They're going to do, I hope this isn't too much, but it is too much, let me know.
Going over what's on your website, right? I saw that cool graphic.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And they do a 3-way rape. Okay, but they're downloading. This is getting into too heavy, but they download 3 major demons that will, throughout the child's life, will continue: Apollyon, Nimrod, and Michael. They are downloaded. So each age, there's very specific things done. So the next one will be 13 months old that we have to look at. It's a 13-year-old event, 13-month-old event. It's very important. 3-year-old event, and then it's going to go up to 13. The cult believes a child has now chose the cult, and it's their free will and choice at 13, which is a lie, because they're still under drugs. They're still under parts, but they call it their free will and choice. And then we have a couple graduation dates, 17 and 19, that have to be addressed. And then what happens at 13 is what they call the first star of Satan. Okay, so this is going to happen every 13 years. It's very important. So it happens at 26, 39, 52, and 65. I've never personally worked with anyone 65. I feel like if you made it to 65, you're probably not coming in for help. I have worked with a couple 52-year-old that they did receive their 4-star. But it's all core stuff. And then, so we, those are the ages, but then we have to work with the trees and the worlds in different dimensions that they built. That's all spiritual. And that all has to be done by 17. So that's what we're working with now. I hope I'm not going to do overload, but just tell me. So here I am, we're doing this, it's working, it's going great. And then along comes the mothers of darkness. Okay, so that's a whole nother level. They have the core foundation. So let's make that clear. They have it. But what's different is they have another set that goes along with each one of those that are strictly just for them. They're connected worldwide. So if anything happens to one of the survivors, they know in a second. So they are all connected. So they have their own programming that's connected to the core. And anyway, and that's why I know very few have ever gotten free, because of what we've had to do.
Yeah.
So when mothers of darkness go out and say, I'm a mother of darkness, I know they're not free. I know it, because they won't even look at this stuff. I'm talking about 2 of them that are public about it. And, and so I don't know. I know God wants this to be brought out. It's not been brought out in any time in history, really. And so I do feel there's something breaking down, because all of these women started coming in to see me because of my book. So if it was just all full of crap, they wouldn't be coming in, and they wouldn't be attacking me for the last year of every single group that could possibly think of. So that tells me, I didn't know when I put the book out. I just, okay, this is really good information, blah, blah, blah. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea that how real and important this was until they started attacking me nonstop, and my husband.
Right. Yeah,
Like, we've never been through such hell ever. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really been horrible.
You're tapping into something. So with each of these significant ages that seem to be, variations of 3, right? There's some kind of, ritual trauma, very, very horrific
7 days.
things happening that last over 7 days. So it's putting children into dissociative states and, splitting the
Yes.
mind. And then the programming is given during that time of openness, correct? And
Yes. What they do is, so first of all, they have to get their Lucifer kingdom, what I call it, Lucifer's kingdom in. So that's number 1. So that has to be at every age. But at these events, the child has to show that they have learned, they can't live, they can't accomplish whatever, and they have to download their demons. At 3, they are going to start doing the Disney programming, but it is on top of the core that's hidden. So the programmer has to play with the kid's mind, because he thinks he's God, and so he loves to play with the mind. So there's going to be a ton of that front programming. It's just that it won't get a person free. So I don't even focus on it anymore unless I absolutely have to. But what people can hopefully understand is, when you go to the core events, you'll deal with those kind of things that you have to deal with. Because see, if somebody comes in to see you as a client and you say, okay, and they say Sleeping Beauty is coming up and I'm feeling this way and I keep falling asleep and whatever. Okay, if you focus on Sleeping Beauty is programmed through that person's whole life, all their ages. So you can't just pull it out like that, because it's intertwined with everything else in the core foundation. That's why I don't waste my time anymore doing that kind of thing. I just don't, because it's worthless in my mind. It is. But sometimes I have had to deal with those, but I never do it unless we're in an event, a core
event. That
makes
sense to go to the root memory, right? The root trauma.
And then we'll deal with it. And, God has been so good about this. Like, when you've already removed an adult for all the way down to, let's say you've already got to 13 and you work to 3, what God has been letting me do, because I told him we don't have time. We don't have time anymore for what's happened in the past for therapy and stuff. We don't have time. We have to do this now. And he's been letting me, because of it's so not the core, is I just say, God, everything from 13 to 1 or to birth that was Disney and all these other things, can you just take it? And I'll explain how I do that. And he does. So our dealing with front programming is very small.
Got it. So can you use the words, the Water World programming, or Atlantis, and the New World Order program? Can you just expand a little on what that means? And how does a program play out, and what triggers it, and the mechanic?
Well, the New World Order programming is basically a person has been, created super soldiers. So they're going to have probably 7 to 13 core altars, but they'll have hundreds of altars behind them. They're all part of the New World Order army. And so one category can do martial arts, one can shoot, one can hunt, one can do this, one will take sexual stuff. So they all are set up to do whatever's needed. So, but it all works together as a whole. And they created this for this time because they are bringing in the New World Order right now, whether people like to believe it or not. They are doing it, and they've brought in a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, I won't go through it here, but when I wrote this, when they took me back, I wrote down all this stuff that they said they wanted for the New World Order to be done. And now they're doing it all right now. So they haven't stopped their plan. And so they have sleepers. So what they're going to do is, let's say that they're ready for the major kickoff. The major kickoff will be survivors will go into soldier mode for cleanup, which means they've somehow called martial law and they want to take over now. And that's when they're going to do the cleanup of the people. And so this is through many survivors. They've been directed to get rid of all. I'm just going to go through the list, okay? The only people that are going to be allowed to live are basically between, up to possibly 40, but definitely not past that. They cannot be gay, they cannot be transgender, they cannot be sick, they cannot be mentally ill. And all old people, all of that will be killed. The survivors will be set to do that. They will only allow those amount of people to live to be their slaves. Now, this is their plan. I don't think God will let them, but this is their plan. So the survivors have the same programming and they have been given a specific job. Not everybody's the same. Like, I've had some people come in and tell me that they've been given orders to kill a specific politician when this occurs. And it'll be 3 people that are very high up will go out together and they'll say the same message. And then that will be the trigger to the survivors. And then they'll know it's time to do whatever they were set to do. So that's why for the last 3-4 years, I've been trying to tell people, just pray that God to get this out of you, or that you won't be activated, because everyone has it, because that's why they were created.
It must be terrifying for a person to become aware of that programming.
Yeah. I think that if they know it's there, they can at least have a chance to shut it down, because see, most people don't even know it's there. I didn't. So.
Wow, that's a mouthful of fearful types of imagery, right?
It's in my second book, and then my third book will have more about the New World Order. I'm sharing from the clients and my own experience, and this things that I wrote from back then are coming true now.
Yeah.
So. They haven't stopped their plans. I don't care what anybody says. They haven't. So it's us stopping them is how this works.
So the people that are coming in to get help are having breakthrough memories more than likely, or symptoms. What are they experiencing that's bringing them to you?
A lot of them actually don't remember a lot. Some just feel they may have a few memories. Some know, but they don't have a ton, I guess. But what ends up happening with this is when you use these modalities and you start going to the core, the subconscious mind is able to start showing that person. And the more and more we work, the more and more stuff will come up for them. And it has nothing to do with me. It's just that the unconscious, if you have the tools, the subconscious mind will help you get free and bring up what they need to know. And that has worked with every single survivor. So it doesn't matter if you know a ton, you don't have to. Because when you start this process, because I use tapping, I use body code, I use Courts of Heaven and Jesus. And between all of those things, and then I have different techniques that I just ask a very simple question to the subconscious, and the subconscious answers. You don't have to put them in a hypnotic state for that to happen. And I even teach my clients how to do it. I teach my clients how to do everything I just told you so they can help themselves. Because in my life, I can never count on anyone else but me. And I don't feel like anyone else can. I feel like you have to know how to help yourself. And you have to know, if you have alarm systems go off, you better know how to shut them down and not be counting on somebody else, because that's dangerous. And then I also showed them how to shut down alarm systems very easily. It doesn't have to be this crazy, I'm going to go kill myself, cut myself, do this. No, that's the past in my mind, because we have knowledge now to control what they've done and stop it. And so that's what I teach. I am very big about empowering a survivor, mainly because of what I experienced. So I don't want them to count, what is that? Like be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like count too much on me. I need them to be responsible for them, for themselves.
Yeah, I really appreciate that philosophy, that approach to self-responsibility and empowerment, right? To do the healing work. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. What was the biggest factor for you in your healing? What helped you the most?
To be honest with you, what helped me the most was tapping. Because I already had a million memories. You have to remember, I'd already been working 20 some years of memories, and I had all this pain. I had nowhere to do. And it's not EFT, by the way. It's just a different kind of tapping. And I started using tapping on all the memories I had, and I started changing and releasing all that pain out of me. And what happened is my whole entire life changed, and I didn't even work on it. I started having the most amazing business. I traveled worldwide, saw clients worldwide, all these business opportunities, relationships, money, everything changed when I got rid of my trauma. I didn't work on the programming because I thought it was okay. And, so that came a little later, but God helped me clear my trauma. And so I was never happier in my entire life than I was when I found that. And I did that, probably like 5 years happy. Oh my gosh, I had friends everywhere. Life was fantastic. And then that's how this next part of my journey started, is they called me back after I'd done all this work. And it's because I did not touch the New World Order programming. And if you don't touch it, you're accessible. And the other thing I hope survivors understand, I'm not trying to be hard and rude. I'm trying to help you understand the truth, is if you do not integrate your parts, you are accessible. I don't care what you think. If you think just because you have memories, it doesn't mean anything. If you have those programming inside of you, they can and they will access you. Because I can say, I thought I was healed. I had all the memories in the world. But they could still access me because I had the programming. And anyway, and you've got to integrate your parts. I've heard people that have very big followings, and they talk about how their parts, they're always dealing with their parts. Their old parts are all running around. And that to me is the most dangerous thing you could ever do in the world. It's just tell people you have all these parts. Like, they know that you're an open target. And to admit that in public is dangerous. So I suggest that people do not say that ever, even if it's the truth. So anyway, that's the thing. If you don't want to be accessed and you want to be free, you do have to integrate your parts. And that has to happen. I've had so many survivors say, well, I really like what this part can do for me. And I like what that part can do for me. I don't want to integrate that. But if you don't, they've got you whenever they want you. So you got to make a choice. So anyway.
Yeah, it kind of goes into what we spoke with a couple of guests in the past regarding like shadow work and like shadow integration and that kind of stuff. Like these things just don't, magically disappear or whatever. We have to, just kind of make the darkness conscious, if you will, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Back it up. Like there's interesting programs going on, and it seems like, MK Ultra and all that stuff and what they were experimenting with, back in like 40s, 50s, whatever.
Yeah.
There's, these princess programmings and stuff, and, Alice in Wonderland, Project Monarch, yada, yada, Naomi even. And it seems like, what you were talking about earlier made me think like, geez, are they really targeting females more than males with all this?
Males have their to-do list, so to speak, but I'm just more familiar with the women. I think that I can speak more with that part. But the men definitely have their roles. Like the other part, if you guys could ever find information, is if you look up Father of Death or Father of Darkness, You can't find anything, like nothing. Now, how did they hide that all these years? Well, I have one person who is writing me some information that he found out he is, and we've been able to help him work through stuff. But yeah, their role plays with the Mother of Darkness. They're very connected, just to let you know. They're very connected in their roles. So for whatever reason, I'm supposed to talk about all this stuff. But anyway.
What's the difference between memory retrieval and integration?
Well, integration is that you have a part, an actual part, personality part, who has that programming, who has that information, and that part has to eventually integrate, and that you can't make them. Because you have to consider, I know this is weird, but this is how it works. When you're working with a survivor and they have lots of parts, and when you get to where the leaders are not going to want to integrate, and they are not going to be talking to you anytime soon. So this is at the end of when you've removed a lot. Then they'll start talking to you. But you have to remember, leaders in a survivor's programming is 100% loyal to Lucifer. Mm-hmm. So your biggest goal is to teach them, because they think Jesus is Lucifer and Lucifer's Jesus, God. And the hardest thing you're going to have is to get that part that's a leader to believe you that Lucifer isn't great. And I've had some experiences, if you want to hear one. Do you? All right. So this is at the end, and we are working with the leader. Okay. So he is at the top of the chain. And he just wouldn't, in the life of me. And we'd have all these conversations, because you have to talk to him like they're a person, and just talk. And so we went to the courts of heaven, and he little by little would kind of listen, about Jesus, a little bit here, a little bit there. And so one day he just kept saying, Lucifer is going to save me. Lucifer's going to give me paradise. Lucifer's going to do this. I said, okay, fine. If that's the truth, then we're doing it right now. Are you ready? And so we're in the courts of heaven with Jesus and God, of course. And then I say, okay, we're calling Lucifer up here right now. Okay, Lucifer, here's your chance. You can take him right now. Take him. You can have him. And you're saving him because you told him you would. And you can have paradise. So give him your paradise that you're giving him. And, he's all powerful because he believed he was powerful over Jesus. And what he saw was Lucifer do nothing, give him nothing, and crawl out. That's what he saw. And when he witnessed that Lucifer wasn't going to save him or give him paradise, is when he was ready to hear what the truth was. And he eventually actually did integrate. So
integration meaning consciousness. There's no splitting. There's no alter that's acting unconsciously or like rogue. Yeah. So you could remember something, but still not be in your like kind of wise mind managing your impulses.
You're whole. Your mind is whole. And there's nothing more amazing to witness a person pull their mind back together where it's never been. Since they were, even at conception, they were never whole, except for a few minutes at 13 months old, which I'll not explain right now. So yeah, that is beautiful. And that's what God has shown me, is if you just deal with the core altars and the core events, you can pull this out. Because the only thing that really has any power is what all the demons are attached to. See, all that stuff I told you about each events, they're downloading so many fallen angels, Nephilim, everything you can imagine to keep this person trapped. And so my question is, if the fallen angels and Lucifer is so powerful, then how could a person even move or do anything? Because literally you have hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of fallen angels attached to this programming. How are you even functioning? But yet you do. So that has to say, maybe they're not so powerful after all.
Of course, yeah, but we have to take in mind the modus operandi of parasites, and that they want to latch onto the host and suck their life force energy,
Yeah,
get that good juice and, milk it out as long as they can without
you bet.
killing the host or whatever, right?
And that the cold sucks the energy out of every survivor. There's not a survivor I've ever met that says they're not tired all the time. It's because their energy's always been sucked out of them. Anyway, it's a long story on that, but they have to feed quite a few different things through their chakras and all that. So their chakras and meridian systems are hooked up to all the programming, and they'll hook it up to all the organs. So yeah.
Yeah, we learned about, these false overlays, this chakra system, even like these crucifixion implants within our DNA, getting cut off from source. We're supposed to be like 12-strand DNA activated individuals, and we're operating on 10% of our brain, 10% of our DNA, and a lot of other stuff that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense as to, where our true templating is supposed to be at.
Well, they did something at this last eclipse, because I've had like over 10 people tell me that after the eclipse, they've had the hardest time trying to pray, go to God, where it wasn't a problem before. So they did something to the spiritual. These are survivors, so obviously they have some kind of control to do it. But
I heard the inverse with some other people. Like, it was pretty powerful in the opposite sense.
Well, maybe they weren't survivors. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess not.
Yeah. And I think it's important to recognize that there are parts that are very convincing to the host, so to speak, that they're good, that they're needed, that there's a function and a role. So it must be very confusing. And there's a process of, is it a questioning process that you do with the part, or how do you help to do that integration so that the individual can see that, oh yeah, like, that's not good. I mean, you gave a good example with that
it's a process, because I don't even try to do the real integration at the beginning, because the real important ones aren't going to integrate at the beginning. No way. And yes, you can ask, because some of the little ones will integrate, meaning they will become one with you, so they can be safe. They don't want to be a part of all that. But there's not a lot of integration that's going to happen at the 4-star, 52 or 39, 26, probably not. So I don't try a ton, but when we're moved a good portion, then I'm working very hard with working with whatever parts we can find, and we'll integrate. The interesting thing is, though, a survivor's going to have hundreds. I'm going to say again, maybe even thousands of parts. And you know what? A lot of them you will never have to work with. They will just integrate automatically, because you've removed so much. So you don't have to remove, you will not, of course, work with every survivor's parts. Many will work together. This one person, it was funny, because he was in his part, and his part said, we'd worked through all this stuff, and he said, okay, I'm willing to do this. And I said, okay, but we need to ask the other parts that you're over. And he said, they'll do what I tell them to do. And I said, no, we're not working that way. You need to ask them for their own free will. So I always make sure the parts have their own free will and choice. They don't have to integrate. They don't have to do anything. But we do put a boundary on them. They're not allowed to use witchcraft. They're not allowed to hurt, harm, spell, cast with anything during a session. So I always set up the sessions so they understand, like, I understand you do have these certain things where you're not using them now, so that's really important that I teach professionals how to set up their sessions so they'll be protected.
Yeah. So to highlight, you are offering trainings to professionals on this process and how to help survivors, which I think is wonderful and needed.
Yeah. It's my second one for this particular training. And then I am doing seminar for survivors. It's just going to be going into it lightly, I suppose, in August, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. But the training, which I absolutely have just loved, is working with professionals, because we can go in such a deep level, and the training is 100% different, because I in the past just did seminars and worked with everyone together, and I love this way, because I can go so deep, and they really, the professionals really want to understand this. And And anyway, so it's been really fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So
Are there phases of the treatment that you have identified, where to start, and then an order of the work?
yes. So I do use muscle testing through a lot of this, but I use muscle testing with the survivor's intuition and what their unconscious tells them. But we have to find out what is the last time they were taken to an event for their stars. So we want to find the last star they earned. And so if somebody comes in about 50 years old, usually they have not got the 52-year-old star. They've only worked up to the third star, which is 39. So that's where we're going to start, is at 39 years old. So we have to find out what's their age and what's the last event that they attended for that was a specific event like this. And so anyway, that's how we and we have to work our way back. You have to work the person's age now all the way back into the womb.
Question. Are there specific, tenets regarding these, 13, year span events and all this stuff? And, what types of initiations are kind of outlined for, and it's not just for women, right? Or are we just...
No, it's men
right.
too.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, at each age, sometimes there's a different thing. Like they're going to put in their template, but then what I do find is some of them, survivors are going to have some different things that we have to address. But let's just take 26 years old. That's a big one. The woman is going to become a queen. She's going to become a mother of a Nephilim. She's already become a mother of Nephilim at 13, but she is going to get married. I know this is very difficult because it took me a long time to do this, understand it. The Nephilim, she also gets married to at 26.
Like on a metaphysical level type of thing, or what?
Yeah, in a dimensional spiritual type level.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha, yeah.
So a lot of this is going to be in different spiritual dimensions. This is not, some of it is, but of course the ritual's real, and they do download every age. They're downloading a higher level of evil, so that's what I mean. Like if you're 26, you can handle more than a 3-year-old. So see, they understand the ages of the children, and you can only do certain amount to this age, but at this age you can do more, and that's how they work. That's how they program.
Yeah, and that kind of works the same as what I just mentioned with the whole parasite. You don't want to kill the host. You can't override the system. They're going to burn out at that young age. Yeah.
And they know exactly how far to take a person that they've killed, right? So the person died. They know exactly how long they have to download something and then bring them back to life. Like that, they know what they're doing. Wow. And that's what I need people to understand. This is not just, I'm just torturing you and you did split your mind. No, it's all purposeful. Now, are you going to have your little crazies that are part of the cult do things to these people almost every day of their life? Yep. They're going to be abused probably every single day of their life.
So this is prescripted pretty much. There's a science around an understanding of the spiritual and energetic anatomy of humans. Yeah. And so that's being exploited. It's a knowledge that is not shared, right? It's an occulted knowledge that they are holding and then using to abuse our population to unwitting people, naive people. But they're, like you said, they're for centuries, right, have been raising families and bloodlines of people. And I imagine that creates very powerful, deep programming. And right.
I think Kathy O'Brien taught that, like, let's say you're 7 generations down. Well, you pretty much already have all the programming inside of you when you're born anyway, because, they've had generations, we get the ancestors connection, all their iniquity, all their everything. So so that's why I always tell everybody, do your ancestor clearing. I don't care if you're a survivor or not, because an ancestor clearing is a must if you're a survivor for sure, because you're going to have so much downloaded to you from all your ancestors in this stuff, especially Freemasons and all that. You know, and I'm going to tell you something else. When I learned to do it, there wasn't anybody I didn't find that didn't have druids in their family line. It didn't mean they were necessarily, you know, an active part, but they had a druid and a Freemason in their family line somewhere. So,
and I imagine, you know, I mean, everyone could benefit from some ancestral
Yes.
clearing, right?
Absolutely.
Because all of
Yes.
our histories, even if we're not personally affected by this trauma-based
Yes.
mind control, we have been traumatized in our ancestry through wars and, I mean, so many deliberate horrors, slavery.
And if you're German, you're going to have all the iniquity of Hitler in your generations, and so you've got to clear it. So, yeah, but to me, it's very interesting what you're going to find. To me, it's not scary. It's just interesting what you will find with what your family did. So,
well, and I think knowledge about how our energy psychic system works, you know, knowledge is power, right? So when you start to get the understanding of how this all works, then you don't have to be so afraid. You can learn the technology to undo it, right? Yeah.
That's what I feel. I just feel like if you and me and you know that this is what the cabal does, how successful can they continue to be? Like, if we know what they're doing to every person that they put under MK Ultra, we can tear this down so they can't keep doing it. But right now, unfortunately, the cabal has control of the survivors community, the professionals still, because everybody's just chasing their tail, so to speak, running after all kinds of different possibilities. And it's not that that's bad. It's just that won't get us free.
I'm kind of notioning towards, you know, the whole, you know, there's like, we got thousands of people hacking at the branches of evil, but not striking at the root type of thing.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to start pulling out the roots of these people, their teachings. I think if you guys start to go down and read a non-famous on Substack, he has like, I think there's like 5 parts to the origins of Cabal, but then he has 7 parts to, I'd never say this right, the Ada Devilum or whatever. And anyway, and then he's got Freemasons. Like, he has done the deepest, best research I've seen of anybody to go back to the beginning of time and help put the pieces together for you, so you see how this all began and how the Cabal kind of pulled all this information together to believe what they believe. So it's really, he's not a survivor. So it's just very interesting if you guys are interested.
Yeah, totally. That's a non-famous.
Myers' work as well. Is that something that you think he's on to some truth there?
Fritz Myers.
Yeah.
I don't believe he's taking anything from Fritz Meyer. It's not that kind of information. It's based on history. And,
right. I know it's different, but I'm wondering, do you see?
I don't think so.
Okay.
He doesn't reference anybody. So it's just his own research and stuff. So,
but Fritz Springmeyer's work around this trauma-based mind control, is it a decent reference for what happens as an educational?
I respect what he did. So that's all I'm going to say. But as far as getting a person free, it's hard because it's just so much information. And it is mostly front information.
Right.
And front programming, but it's necessary to know. So, I mean, he did his part.
Like a layer on the outside. You're going much deeper. Like we were talking
and it's just my part. Like, you know, I'm sure other people are going to find more information too. And I want them to, you know, because that's how God works. He gives, you know, this information, then he gives somebody else some more and more. And that's what we need right now. Like I said, I'm the only beginning work of this 3rd book of Mothers of Darkness. Like, I depend and hope that other people will say, okay, this is what's going on. Let's see if we can find more. And I want them to, because I think they've worn me out. So I don't know. I'm going to keep doing it. So I'm doing my part, and then we'll leave it to somebody else.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, folks are trying to do their part. Leslie, what's on your mind, yo?
Well, I'm trying to think of where to go from here. The question I had is, sometimes I'll have people say to me that they wonder if someone they know is, you know, been involved somehow in this trauma-based mind control, or they might think that they got connected in, and I don't really know how to help sort that out, right? And what would you suggest?
You're talking
They're
about people
saying
like
that they
being able
think they
to.
got pulled in.
Yeah, no, but, you know, yeah, people who are wondering if they themselves have been, you know, in a relationship, say, with someone who has been in this, you know, what are the warning signs? You know, how do you sort
Okay.
out what's real and what's kind of your imagination?
Well, my husband's not a survivor, but he was wounded when he went to a hospital when he was 3 by some cult members, which left an opening. And when he married me, they found the opening. And they did hurt my husband quite a bit. They were able to program him quite a bit. So we didn't know that. We just thought it was me. And so anyway, yes, I will say this because I know the cult very well, is if you are a partner of a survivor, they will do everything they can to get you. And they'll put you under mind control too, so that you don't remember. So like if you tell me you've been with somebody, 10 years, then I'm going to tell you, I'm so sorry, but they definitely got a hold of you. If your husband's wife is not free, they will get a hold. They won't let them be with the partner unless they can control the partner. So,
And that
What
comes
are
to
some of the symptoms to look out for? Just to finish the question, and then I'll give it to you, Derek. What are some of those symptoms, for people that will come up that will indicate that that's happening?
Well, I think, that's what's hard is that they're not going to have memories. And, but if they feel depressed or sad or feel like they don't understand why they're feeling this way, I mean, those can be red flags. But you have to understand now that they are so good at the mind control that they can do with the new technology. They can wipe your memory, and you can try like heck to get into it, and it's hard. It really is. So you have to just, if somebody is acting abnormal and you know that your survivor partner, and you don't feel right, that is a red flag, and to look into that. I like to do the freehand writing that can tell you things, and you just use the word because, like, I feel like crap because, and then I just let the subconscious take over the pen or the part of me and just write. And that's how I remembered everything, actually. That's one way to remember, if you can. If you had a person that could ask you questions, this is the best way to do it. It's you ask the subconscious mind the first thought. So I'm going to ask you a question, Leslie, and I want you to tell me your first thought. And I don't want you to think about it, because I know after about a few seconds and you don't answer me, you're into your logic, but you seriously can find out anything you want to know just by that little technique. I have used that a million times, and I never put anyone under hypnosis. I don't need to. I ask them a first thought, or I'll say, you finish the sentence. Leslie, you are walking across the street because, and I tell you first thought. I want you to answer me first thought. And if they go too long, okay, you went too long. And I will get all the answers I need. So that if maybe you two did it together, he could ask you. You could ask him something using that technique.
That's interesting. Yeah. It's like getting out of your own way to that first image, that subconscious message before you interfere with your cognitive, analytical parts or whatever.
Do you guys know David Snyder?
Not really. I don't.
He teaches a lot of different things. I learned this probably in 2017, but he taught me a lot about the subconscious. And he said, your subconscious will always answer honestly and will always answer first. If anything goes after that, it's the logic mind telling you it's not true what the subconscious just said. Because the logic mind, you can't work with the logic mind if you want to heal, because the logic mind doesn't have the information. Only your subconscious has the recording of all your trauma. So that's why we don't want to work with logic mind.
Yeah, and that's really interesting for people to really understand, because, folks like Leslie and I and others in that work, we hearken a lot about the trivium, like the truth discovery method, methodology, and where it starts with that, the grammar, logic, rhetoric, and at the same time, it doesn't necessarily have to apply to every single thing that we're analyzing and absorbing on a daily basis. And yeah, like this whole subconscious minefield and this and that, it's more abstract to where the trivium can't necessarily find that logic. Where, in a sense, Leslie, you know what I mean? I'm sure you had spoken.
Yeah, I think you said that well.
About this, right? So yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like, and I've thought of this, it's like the trivium is very logical, it's very cognitive, very left brain, but there is then the right brain where it's more connected to this, the intuitive, and whatever the anatomy is, that is the subconscious, and how that operates is not to be discovered through logical analysis. It's something different, right?
It is. I like to use it as it's the recorder from the moment you've been created until the day you die, and it records everything in all 5 senses. And so when somebody says, well, I don't remember, I don't remember. And I said, well, you do know what happened to you because it's recorded in your mind.
But isn't that the sixth sense in a sense?
Huh?
Almost, isn't that almost like a sixth sense in a sense? Kind of.
Well, yeah, because you know, that's when people say, well, I kind of think, but I really not sure. And I said, what's your first instinct? You could say maybe, because see, when people come in here and they tell me something, I know they're not calling me because it isn't real and true. They think it's not real or true because they're still listening to their logic mind. But a lot of them will come and say, I think this is right. And, kind of feel like it, but I don't have any memories. Well, I tell people, trust that, because it is your subconscious trying to get your attention. Because, if you haven't had SRA, you're not going to call me. You're just not. So if somebody calls me, I don't care if they remember or not, they are calling me because their subconscious is helping them. So
how do you address when people are very afraid, to go into the subconscious and then can quickly become really terrified and block, a lot of other sort of conscious, other parts pop in to block them from that. How do you work with that?
I work with that through tapping and body code, because see, if you have a way to handle your pain, then it's not scary. What's scary is that you go there and you have no way to handle the pain. And that's what tapping does, because you're using your meridian systems, okay? And you're tapping to release the emotions that are stored in your body, and your unconscious is connected to all your organs. And so all we're doing is releasing that pain. And I've worked with like complex trauma for 12 years. And every single time, I don't care who comes in to see me, I'm not worried. You know why? Because I have tools to help them release their pain. They will be able to get through it, to look through it. And that's why I feel I am successful in helping survivors, because I have tools to help them deal with their pain. And body code is fantastic too. It works differently, but it still uses the meridian system. But it's like a map that we can use for the subconscious to show us what's inside that the logic mind can't pull from. So anyway, I won't get into explaining that, but those are my 2 key things to be successful. Yeah. And you know what? I don't have clients who go into the deep, deep land where they can't pull back from, or they want to kill themselves, or they want to do this and that, because I have tools for them to help them heal and help themselves. If you get into a place of emotion that you can't control, you start tapping, you start tapping. I have a little prayer they can say for alarm systems, but it's kind of like shutting down the program. And it works. So that's really the key, because if you don't have any tools, then no, it's too hard to look at.
Right. And it's not safe if you don't have tools to withstand it. Yeah. I would like, to share just a little summary of each of those modalities, a little summary of the tapping and a little summary of the body code.
Okay, so tapping is using your subconscious mind and your body, which communicates to each other, right? So we're going to use the meridian system, because that's the highway that your subconscious communicates to the body and tells it what to do. Like, I don't feel good today. Okay, body's not going to feel good. So we're going to interrupt that communication. And so let's just say we go to a trauma at 5 years old, and mom yelled at the little girl, and the little girl said, "Mom doesn't love me." So for the rest of her life, she believes mom doesn't love her. What we're going to do is we're going to go into that 5-year-old, even though the woman will be 40, who knows? She still has those exact same emotions because she hasn't released them. So what we do is we release the emotions for that 5-year-old by tapping, by the simple way of tapping. Do this. You're telling the unconscious to let it go. Like you're focusing on what that 5-year-old was feeling. Focus, see it, feel it, hear it, anything you need to just be there and notice what's there. And then we just say, let it go. I'm telling you a simple way. Let it go, let it go, let it go. And then I grab my wrist and say peace, but this is connected to 5 organs. Okay, so then I go back into my subconscious mind, and now the little girl's not crying, but she's kind of neutral. Okay, well, that's not done. That means I have to go back and tap again. And all I'm doing is when I'm tapping is I'm letting the subconscious rule and guide. So the subconscious says, okay, I still have something here that you need to look at. Maybe she's angry. Okay, well, the next step, instead of crying, I need to deal with the anger I have. So I release this anger. I'm letting it go. Everything I felt at 5, I'm just letting it go. You can say whatever you want. It doesn't matter. And I'm telling my subconscious to have peace. Okay, so now I'm going back. And now she's not angry. She's almost got a teeny bit of a smile. I'm like, what? Okay, so 0 to 10, how much does that bother? Well, I'll just say it for me, it's easier. Okay, how much does 0 to 10 does it bother me? I started at a 10, I'm at like 3. Okay, I just feel like mom was being mean. I'm just not forgiving her. Okay, I release how I can't forgive mom. I just can't forgive her. I can't forgive how my whole life I've spent not feeling loved, whatever it is. So deep breath in, peace. Okay, so now I'm about down to 1, and her belief system was I am not lovable, let's just say. So now I want to put in a good belief for her, and I'm going to tap that in, but I can't do it until I'm at 0, 1 to 2. And now I'm going to still tap because of one reason. She does not have a smile on her face. And you're going to say, well, how could you get a smile on your face? Especially if you're working with a heavy trauma at a ritual. How could you do that? That's not possible. It is possible because the only thing that makes that ritual horrible is all your emotions that you've attached to it, right? It's the subconscious. It's all the recording of the pain, of the hurt, the hitting, the rape, whatever it was. But if you release all that, your subconscious mind will change it into what it feels it's okay to hold now. And the weird thing is, I know this is all probably weird if you haven't heard of it, but you're tapping until the person in the memory has a smile. And it doesn't mean it was okay for any of that to happen. It just means the subconscious doesn't care anymore about it. And so I feel God wants us to heal like that. He doesn't want us to carry all of our trauma and be traumatized our whole life. We need to get to the point that we can look at that and say, you know what? Yes, I was hurt very badly, but guess what? I could care less anymore. That's true freedom. So that's what tapping did for me.
Yeah.
And I worked on all my horrible memories. Okay.
Yeah.
I just showed you something very light. So it works on heavy trauma amazingly. And then body code is basically, let me see if I can show you, but it's a phone app. You can get it on the computer, but anyway, it's Dr. Bradley Nelson, and he developed, it's like 765 categories, and you're muscle testing using the subconscious mind of the person to figure out the underlying cause of blank. So it can be anything, your physical, your emotional, your spiritual. He even has curses, entities. He has like you need an herb or you shouldn't take an herb. You shouldn't need a vitamin. I mean, he has everything you could possibly think of. So what I consider body code for me helping survivors is it's my map. It's like, okay, survivor, you and me are going to work together because we have a map, and your subconscious is going to tell us through muscle testing and your intuition how to go and where to go and what to do. And that's how I use body code. Now, body code is not created for SRA survivors. God just showed me how to use it for SRA survivors. But this is invaluable to me. Invaluable. Like, I couldn't do what I do because most survivors can't tell you a ton. But see, what you're doing is you're working with their subconscious, who does know, and then working together. It's like your intuition and mind working together. It's like you're able to get this information up to the conscious mind, and then the survivor is able to tell you more and more and more. So I don't know how to explain it more than that, but
it's perfect. It makes sense to me, I guess, in the context of my knowledge and my experience as a therapist. I'm not sure how it is to those who don't have that knowledge.
Just go look at it. Body code. It's Dr. Bradley Nelson. You can ask any problem. You could have a physical problem that you don't know what to do with, and you've been to a million doctors. You just say, what's the underlying cause of my, my left leg problem? So it's for everything. And then what I do is something different. And this is really proved to be absolutely invaluable and absolutely 100% necessary, is once I have got the information of, let's say, the 39-year-old event, I'm done. This person and I have found what we need, okay, to release her or him from this event. Then we go to the courts of heaven. And the courts of heaven is absolutely 100% necessary. And I'll tell you why. Because I cannot just tell demons and fallen angels to leave. I can tell the Lord, I found the legal rights of the demons. This is what their legal rights are. And then what he does is he gets rid of them, because they have to obey only him. And he does that in the courts of heaven. And he heals the parts of the survivor in a way that you guys will be blown away. I'm telling you, blown away. Because even if a survivor, you can't get to, like, let's say a 3-year-old issue, I can ask the 3-year-old part, do you want to get rid of your pain right now? I can do that right now. We can't take away the programming yet. We go to the courts of heaven. Jesus takes the pain away from the 3-year-old, and they're fine. We go up and he does all the healing. He does all the work for you. So to me, you're crazy if you don't include him. But I don't do this work without God. And I tell every survivor that as well. And I tell every professional, do not do this work unless you are working with God to help you, because you'll be eaten alive by the demons, eaten alive. You cannot address all the fallen angels you will have to address unless you have God helping you. And for me, that's Jesus and God. But so anyway, we get to the courts of heaven. I present, because God expects us to do our work. We say, this is what we found at 39. Then we ask God to not only remove it from her parts, I'll just say her parts, and ask, can whatever parts want to be integrated, he can integrate them there. He does it with the person. And we release all the demons' legal rights. That means they can't come back later, because we found their legal right. They're out of here. They're gone. No coming back.
Can I ask you a question now, real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what exactly would a legal right for any kind of demon, demonic entity be? Because, as far as I'm concerned, natural law, cosmic law, God's law, if you will, the law of one, there can be no, violation of another, being's, life, property thing, right? So,
well, in the perfect world, you're right, but in the cult world, it's not right. Because see, a demon, a fallen angel, has to obey the law of free will. Okay, they do. But how they get around it is they have somebody give permission. Like, yes, you can hurt that 3-year-old. Yes, you can hurt that 2-year-old, whatever. So at that moment, that demon has a right to that 2-year-old for the rest of their life, because until you remove their legal right, it's not fair. It's unfair. I know. Believe me, I know.
Yeah, and they're bypassing, their karmic debt in a sense, to a degree, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, so
consistency with compliance.
Jesus Christ is the only one that can pay the debt. He's the only one that can get rid of him. Because see, if you said to a demon, I want you to leave, they're just going to laugh at you, because they don't have to obey you worth crap. So they only obey one person. They don't have to obey angels that you don't even know if you're calling on Michael the angel or Michael the demon, because there's a high up Michael demon in the cult that is very big part in the programming.
Yeah, Archangel Michael, you mean? Or
yeah, so that's why I say when you call on angels, you better be very careful who you're calling on, because Michael the demon plays a very big role in the mind control programming of every survivor. So when you say Michael, who are you calling on? So I don't mess with that. I go to the one person I know. And you know what? It's so bad that sometimes you even have to say the true Lord Jesus Christ, because they have a fake Jesus Christ. So that the fallen angels will find any loophole that they possibly can. And so, unfortunately, this is when I worked with complex trauma and people had just been sexually abused. Okay, I'm not just saying just, but they've been sexually abused. They had demons attached to them. Now, did that little child say permission, do this? No, but the person that did it did. So that demon can stay with that 6-year-old or whoever that got sexually abused the rest of their life until that person says no and takes their legal right away. And this is about every single person on the earth. If they can find a way when you're ill, they'll attach to you when you're ill.
So we're all vulnerable to some degree to these nefarious,
absolutely,
demonic entities. And so what would you recommend to people to stay clean and clear, right, as a lifestyle?
Well, because I became a very big expert in being cursed to the 10th degree. So sometimes it's not enough to just say, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command all these curses to be broken. Sometimes that's just not even enough, because they have specific curses that they sent to us. So I literally had to use body code and muscle testing to find the specific curses they sent. And then I just, for my own protection, went to, you don't have to do this, but I went to courts of heaven and asked God to remove the legal rights of the demons. But sometimes you do have to find legal rights. I just tell everybody, say a prayer before you go to bed, not allowing anything to attach to you. And then in the morning, just clear yourself. I personally don't know how to tell you except the way I do it, which is I just say in the name of Jesus Christ, I command these curses to be broken. I revoke them. I don't accept them. I will not accept them. And I don't accept any demon attachments. Then I just say in the name of Jesus Christ, amen. Very simple, very easy, whatever you feel in your heart. You just have to command in the authority.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it seems like people should be aware of maybe doing that before going out into big crowds, maybe certain, societal ritual events and things like that, right?
Like Italy churches.
Yeah.
I don't want to offend anybody, but we felt them. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I know some people get mad at me for saying that, but anyway.
Right.
Mamma mia.
And how about substance use, addictions? How does that play into this? I understand they're using drugs and different things as part of the creation of the programs, right?
Well, I mean, when they do the programming, you're always drugged and you're always traumatized, because that's part of it. You can't get the effects that they want without They do have different drugs than they did on me because they've invented so many different things. So the younger people that are being programmed right now also are being programmed with technology that can make the subconscious mind, it's 100% worse than what I even experienced because of the technology. So that's what we're kind of up against. And we're up against drugs that weren't available a long time ago. So yeah, they've also, some of the younger people, they've been experimented on very badly with the DNA. They're trying to mix DNA of everything, and they need bloodline DNA to do certain things. So anyway, and this is kind of where they're coming in with the Nephilim, creating the Nephilim.
Do you put yourself at risk by doing like DNA genealogy testing and stuff, do you think?
I think you're giving them your DNA, but I'm sure they already have mine. So.
Right. But in terms of even like if you did have some bloodline connection that went way back, would you be a target?
I think it would be a danger, yes.
Uh-huh. And then I imagine that if you're like coping with stress by drinking or
Yep.
overdoing some kind of a substance, right? That also could make you vulnerable, or could it also put you into an alter?
Well, so sometimes they actually create programming to go along with drugs, sugar, energy drinks. They can all work as a trigger for the programming. They can even, like, if you program you with a certain food, like if you eat this certain food, you'll do this, and this. I mean, they programmed me. This was when I was 17. I won't get into it, but the end result was they had not given me food or water for 7 days, and at the end, they gave me a beer, and they said, "Oh, we want you. The beer's saving you." So it was part of a programming that I would subconsciously think the beer was saving me, so I would drink when they needed me to drink. So that's how they do it. Yeah. I mean, you have to understand a certain thing though. Okay, I would think all survivors would be drug addicts because they've been given drugs since in the womb. But they don't allow that. Like, if you have a certain role, they will make sure you are not allowed to do that, become a drug addict or an alcoholic. So you have to understand that. Some will not ever be allowed to do that.
Like, hey, they want that pure tapped energy, not something, diluted, polluted, or whatever.
Yep.
So, I just wanted to mention something because, it's to bring encouragement to how powerful we really are. Because they need, these thousands and hundreds of fucking entities to, latch onto us to suck our life force energy, is because they don't have their own type of shit. Yeah. So that's how powerful we are. A thousandfold of these little parasites. So keep that in the back of your mind, people listening, because we have to have some means of encouragement and realizations of how powerful we really are, especially when we're standing in that power. And yes, it does take a lot of time and process and steps and all these unravelings of the layers of programs on top of programs on top of the multitude of all that shit, right? So yeah, I feel you.
Well, I think that's a good point to say, positive, because the reality is no survivor should be alive, and yet they are, and yet they function, and yet they do things. Okay, how is that even possible? Even if you put the demons aside and just the trauma they've been through. So that tells you right there that you are powerful, that as a human being, that you can overcome this trauma. And you can overcome all the fallen angels attached to you and still function. And you have to understand too, they can't feel joy or happiness, the cult members. At least some that, gave their soul away. They can't feel it. And they want us to live at that level, to be where they're at, because they can't feel it. So we should try to make sure we can feel joy and happiness and try to do the good things in life too. Like, I have people, it doesn't matter what I say on my Telegram channel, somebody will always say, "Oh, how could you do that? Blah, blah, blah. They've infiltrated." And I'm like, I finally just said, listen, they've infiltrated everything. So are you going to let them ruin everything? Or are you just going to say, yes, they've infiltrated, but I'm choosing, there is beauty. Like, there is beauty in Italy. Yes, it is, because somebody got on me about going to Italy. It's like, for gosh sakes. So there's beauty everywhere, and we can't let them ruin it.
I agree very strongly on that. I think that we need to claim our divine right to joy and love and beauty, and to connect to the beauty that's in nature. And we can't let anything really take that from us, right?
Because otherwise there's nothing in life that they haven't touched and ruined. And if you just let them ruin everything, then there's nothing left. So I just finally said, I'm done with this. You can think whatever you want. So
yeah, very good. So internet therapy is very the vogue right now. Is this work that you can do online, or is this really something you need to do in person?
I do all of it on Zoom.
Okay.
I mean, my whole 12 years, I've always worked on Zoom, pretty much.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. Any cautions around that?
Well, I don't know how safe Zoom is, but anyway, that's what I do. So
yeah.
Were you thinking more, Leslie, about just the fact that there's umpteen gazillion influencers out there. Everyone kind of like, because microphones and all this stuff is so readily available now. Folks are starting up. They didn't even know about Skype. When
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So it's just interesting because like you can almost throw a rock and hit some influencer that's going to be like, yeah, I can coach you and heal you up, and I'm your therapist now, and whatever the hell. Yet there can be a lot of limited hangouts. It can be pretty expensive. It could be a long, drawn out, time frame of all this stuff. Yet you're back to kind of square one, or even 2 or 3, whatever it be, right? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think, was that Leslie what you were
Well,
kind of
I
getting
guess
at, or?
I'm thinking even more practical things
Okay.
like,
Sorry.
I get people coming and talking to me from the car out in a parking lot. I don't really necessarily feel like that's the safest environment to be doing some of this work, right?
Right.
Because it's so exposed. Or if you're in a house with an abusive partner or something in the other room, there's just things, I guess, do you help people set up their environment in such a way to cleanse or purify it? Things like that.
Well, for me, it's been good to be Zoom, because then I am, safe, right? Except for the spiritual stuff. And I do have to do a lot of protection around that. I haven't had a problem with that really with survivors, because they usually know what we're going to do. So they kind of take care of that themselves. I haven't had too many people do that. I did have, this girl wasn't SRA, but I don't know. She was so angry, and the anger was just getting more and more. And she got mad at me for something, and she threw her computer on Zoom. And she was, she wasn't really trying to throw it at me, but she was just so angry, So we decided that we're going to get her a bat and a pillow that she can hit during that time, because tapping wasn't enough. She had been raped by so many family members, so many, of course that is, so but anyway, back then that's not what I addressed. So yeah, but she's the only one. The rest is, it's been worked out pretty good, because I do feel like they have the tools to calm themselves down. Tapping calms somebody down very fast, and so that's why it's so invaluable to every professional, I think, because I don't know a thing on this planet that will do it. Because you need something that will calm somebody down right away when they get into an abreaction. And because some of those other things are just not going to work. So I've tried a lot.
How long does the therapy go generally when you start with someone?
If we are strictly going to do deprogramming of a survivor of the whole core foundation, the quickest that I personally have witnessed is about 13 months. But I was able to do that with a Mother of Darkness as well. So that is, that's the quickest, but that's quick. Because you could go to therapy for 100 years, right? We don't have time for that anymore, because we're at the days of, let's just say we're in deep shit and we need to get free right now. So that's kind of where we're at. I feel that with all my heart and soul, that survivors could do a lot to defeat the cabal, because we know their secrets, but we need to get them well. We need to get them whole right now. So that's what I tell God. And he's literally been helping me skip things to do things faster, because it's true. Like, survivors are powerful, but they just sometimes don't know that.
Yeah, and they can be a really big, powerful catalyst to influence change with other people as well. And
Yep.
I wanted to ask you this question for the past hour, and I feel like it's a good time, real quick, of just, how can people that are, stuck in these programs and have been abused, that are completely oblivious to that, how can they even identify themselves as, a survivor, or getting on that pathway towards being a survivor, if you will?
Well, let's just say that if you knew something was not quite right, you don't know what it is. I think if you can, not all people can, but freehand writing is a good way. You ask questions, and the subconscious mind has to answer the word because. So you ask the question and then say because, and then let something take over writing. You don't worry about grammar. You don't care about that. And let something inside of you tell you what's going on. If you could do it, that's the best way. otherwise it's going to be kind of a detective thing for you to figure out, you know, what's wrong. If I do say, if you believe something's wrong, it is wrong. So trust that and don't give up on that.
I want to just, oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to just emphasize, you know, that this is a evil that is infiltrated in the power systems of the world.
Yes.
Right? The systems that unawakened folks are trusting and looking to for guidance. And can you just maybe give a reality check about that? Where
yes. Well, let's just say our governments, I will speak about America, they're all a part of the cabal, Luciferian cabal. They all worship Lucifer. They all get instructed by the fallen angels, the demon gods of the past, the pagan gods, whatever you want to call them, false gods. That's who they worship. That's who they are instructed by, and that's who they've given their soul for that information. And there is really very few that is not going to be a part of the cabal because they won't let them. So our government and education and all that, they're all cabal. And so I ask everyone, how long will you say you believe in God and follow Lucifer? Because that's what we're doing. We're letting Lucifer make our decisions for us, control us, tell us to eat bugs, you know, all that. And we could, this is just me, we could take them down. If we took down the cabal, this would all be over. Our lives would not be miserable. And yet we still let them do what they're doing. So I think it comes down to the people standing up and taking them down. It's the only way.
Yeah. And that's why this education is so important for everyone, this awareness. Yeah. And
because you guys don't understand. Oh, sorry. They can take you, and let's just say, because I watch Bannon quite a bit, they're putting him in jail for 4 months. Well, guess what? In 4 months, they can completely MK Ultra him, kill him, put a clone in. They can do that to Trump. They can do that. I'm not just saying, you know, these people. I'm saying they only need you for a minute to MK Ultra you. They don't need this long thing anymore. They can take your kid while you don't even know a couple days a week and have complete control of them. So this is serious, and there's not a single soul on this planet that can escape what they're doing. So it's either we stop them or they're going to MK Ultra every single soul on this earth, because that is their goal. And they can do it quickly, mainly because of technology.
Yeah.
And
so news. And what is the new technology that's they're using?
Well, the technology, unfortunately, I did witness put into every military category. And this is implanted by surgery. And this is the latest knowledge I know on the technology through survivors is, okay, so they do surgery putting the technology in, and the technology is recording everything about the person, every mood, every thought, every action, everything about the human being. And then they're downloading it into a clone. And they would like to replace the person with the clone so they'd be soulless, because clones don't have a soul. And they're doing this on millions of people. So just to let you know, they're also taking the military and they are putting technology in so that they can turn them on for the New World Order roundup or whatever that's going to be, whatever they want them to do. So there's 4 armies that have been created by the cabal to bring in the New World Order. One is the army of Nephilim army, clone survivors who've been trained their whole life, and the military who have the technology and been MK Ultra'd. So they have 4 armies that they're going to try to use. But again, we're more powerful than all their demon stuff. So anyway, the technology is very sophisticated and it's very hidden. But I would say they've tried to put it in most survivors by now, and there's a really weird thing, but I've had several people verify it. It's some kind of technology in your brain, but it connects to a big parasite in your gut. And the two act together. And the parasite has a demon that's connected to it to kind of keep it living. I don't know.
That makes
So
sense.
anyway,
There's a huge and big underestimation on the whole, biological brain connection in and of
Yeah.
itself. So to hijack that
yeah.
correspondence, that's
And I've had probably like 4 survivors tell me that so far. So
Yeah,
I know
no,
I would like
you're
to
a
leave on a
link
happy
and-
note, not
yeah.
negative.
Yeah, no, but I think we do have to have something that hits home about the seriousness of this, because it's so easy for people to just sort of go to sleep on this. And I think that's sort of a general program that has been laid over everyone, where we just sort of turn off or turn away from the reality that we don't want to see.
Right.
And we can't just, stop saying it. We need to say, like, no, this is real. This is something for you to watch. Yes, it's outside of your paradigm. It's not what you learned in school. It may seem unbelievable. And yet open your mind that we are more than just this, what is the term, the scientific term, where you're just looking at, little like ABC, material aspects. This is a spiritual, energetic part of us, because as humans, we are both physical and spiritual. We're more than matter. Yeah.
They are using the spiritual side beyond most people's belief. But we're still going to win. So that's the bottom line.
Yeah. Sorry for that interruption a little bit.
No worries.
I think that we're coming down to the final wire here. Any points maybe that are important to bring forward that you haven't said, or you want to repeat or highlight for folks?
I will just close with that. It's very important that we understand that what happened to you, if you're a survivor or anyone that has trauma, it didn't happen to you all in one day, and you don't have to heal it in one day. But what I tell all my clients and everyone, and I live my life by this, you can take one step at a time. You can deal with one little piece at a time. And you can take a big trauma and just work with a little piece, and then the next piece and the next piece, and then you'll be done. But if you ever try to look at that whole big mountain and do it all at once, you'll be overwhelmed. You won't be able to move forward. But you know what? You can take one step on that mountain, and eventually you will get to the top. And it works, and it works every time. So I just tell people, in all my clients, no matter how much trauma, or if we're doing this deprogramming process, I just say, we're going to do this one step at a time. We're going to do this as slowly or as fast as we need to for you, because there's no place that we have to be at. It's your time to heal. It's your journey. And, be nice to yourself, because so many survivors are not. They think they need to have it done yesterday. And that's not going to happen. That's not reality, because they've abused you almost every single day of your entire life. And if you're 40, you have 40 years of abuse. So that's why we do it one little step at a time. And then you will accomplish it. You will get to be whole again. And so that's what I say. We win. We're going to be whole. And you guys, we're going to just show your secrets. So that's the deal. Yeah, very good. I think that's very true. And it's important to have that mindset, otherwise it's overwhelming, when you see the whole brunt of it. But if you break it down to this little piece right here in front, we can bite that off, right?
Baby steps.
That's right.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing.
Thank you for having me. You guys are great. Thank you for doing this work and sharing, and thanks.
Yeah. Derek will get this edited and send it off, and we'll share it with the world.
Okay, perfect. If you guys want me to share it, just let me know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, please do. Yeah, once you get it, you'll get it, and then you can share it.
Perfect. I will.
Right. Yeah.
Nice meeting you guys.
Nice meeting
I'm
you
not
too.
sure how to end this, but I'll just let you end it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, all our listeners, and share a little about where can people find your work.
You can go to laurajworley.com. Excuse me. And next week is actually a professional training, and that starts on the 25th or the 27th. They're 2 different times, but same class. But you can attend both classes if you want. That's what the last class did. And then the Survivor seminar is 3 days, August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. I have 2 books that you've already announced, and the 3rd one's coming out in 2 months. And then pray that I do not have to have a ton of attacks after that. So, thanks, guys.
Wishing for your safety and the support to continue your work. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.